I was asked to give a rundown on tools and equipment I have. So somebody wanted to know what a simple setup is. Well, that's not quite a simple setup, but that's part of the setup. So this is the 480V. So this is the SM480V field piece. These are yellow jacket hoses, and if you notice, they look a little thicker and bigger. And I did a special video just on these modified yellow jacket hoses. They're nearly bulletproof. They will last a long time. And even a fan blade from an engine can hit them without doing much damage. And they could momentarily, they could be on the exhaust manifold for a little bit without getting damaged. That's a separate video. Here we have the TRU BLU hose, the silicone hose. Here we got another TRU BLU hose just dangling in the wind, not protected, not being kept clean. As I'm working. There is the VP X7 10 CFM vacuum pump. There's the Mr. 45. Couple tanks. I use 50-pound recovery tanks because I've been filling up my recovery tanks so fast. 30 pounders are not big enough for me anymore. And somebody asked about how do you hook up a micron gauge to an automobile but isolate it from the system. Well, this would be one of the ways. And so we have the micron gauge right here. This is where you would be pulling the vacuum, but you would be using your TRU BLU hose unless you were going through your manifold gauges. You'd use your TRU BLU. You could use a piece of copper line set and make your own gauge out of copper. You could use the stainless steel that I showed in one of my other videos. These are for the coupling connections that have gaskets and get coupled together for the ultra high vacuum stuff. When you are ordering your hoses, they don't just connect to your vacuum pump. Your vacuum pump is specially made. Either you have one of the special vacuum pumps like I do here. If you see that, I have that type of connector, this type of connector. That's part of the hose there that connects, and you see that clamp? That clamp holds it on. Now this is a special vacuum pump. This is rated down to 3 microns, and it's a 12 CFM. This is an industrial vacuum pump. That's almost a $3,000 vacuum pump. Then coming back to this, what you would do is you draw your vacuum, you have this down, and you have these opened. Now, while you are drawing your vacuum, there is some air that is trapped in these ball valves. So while you're getting down there, you have to do this ahead of time. Slowly move them back and forth, and you'll see the micron reading jumping up for little tiny amounts of air that just get caught within the seals, and you do that until it stops. You have another one there. So let's say you get down to 60 microns and you want to turn off the vacuum pump, turn off your gauges, your hoses, whatever you have, but you want to isolate with this valve right here. You want to separate this. You do not want that straight through. Right now we have straight through. We're drawing vacuum and we're reading our microns. But when you do a vacuum decay test, you want to isolate. So you're going to notice this jumps a little bit. So you want to move it around a few times until it stops jumping. That means you have removed the air that is trapped within just wiggling the seal. And that's how sensitive these are. It's not a leak. It shouldn't be a leak. It's just air trapped in the seal. And then you'll see it stop. When you do this and it doesn't move no more, that means you have removed that air. Now you can shut that off all the way. Now you're performing a vacuum decay test because you have isolated the system that is right here. This ball valve is open to this, and you're reading the system. Now you wait 10 or 15 minutes, and after you've been off 10 or 15 minutes, that is your true vacuum. And if you're looking on the graph, you'll see it spike up really fast for a while, and then it'll start slowing down, and then it'll start leveling off. It'll start going into a curve, and then it'll start becoming flat. And when it becomes flat, that is your micron level. Not when you had it on the vacuum pump and you're way down here at 60 microns. That means nothing. It's where you stop. And more about what number means what, watch Jim Bergman. I've discussed it in some of my videos too, but I always refer everybody to Jim Bergman for that. He has excellent videos on the vacuum. So that's kind of part of, when you make hoses for your vehicles, you guys who make custom hoses, this is what I've always put in my, when I don't make hoses very much anymore, only on special occasions for special people certain times. But if I make the hoses, well, this one's too big, this is a bigger one. This is a Sporlan Seal. This is a moisture indicator that reads parts per million. Let's see if I could get it focused in there, get it in the sun. Now you can see that's bright yellow. It should be green. So that is totally saturated with moisture, and it reads contamination of moisture in parts. You put these in your automotive liquid line. So after the condenser, before the expansion valve, you could get these threaded, you could get these with crimps, you could get them compression, you could get them braze on. They're all different kinds. But that gives you the indicator right there. And I always put these on my lines on customers' cars when I do them, and I always show the customer, I go, and it has the little lid on it, and I always show the customer, you see how it's nice and green right now? If you move away, or somebody ever works on your air conditioning, or if you're ever in an auto accident in the front end and the body shop has to pull off the condenser and open the lines, if they leave the lines open to the air, they'll contaminate your whole system with moisture, and the vacuum pump will most likely not get it all out. And then they put back on the condenser and they charge it up, and it'll be yellow. Now you owe you a whole flush to the system, where you'll be paying me or somebody else several $100s to entirely take out the evaporator, the expansion valve, flush out the system, flush out all the oil, change the receiver dryer, and then charge it up properly, and then it'll be green. And I can tell you, when other shop owners got hit with that bill and had a not so happy customer coming back to them after I gave them the information, not happy with me. Customer's happy with me, but the other shop's not happy with me. And that's what sleazeballs always contaminate customers' cars with moisture, but there's no way to prove it. I always put in a way to prove for my customers that they were dealing with a sleazeball. All right, guys, that's it. Let's get rid of the sleazeballs out of our industry, and let's do good work. I'll see you guys later. My dad was doing this with analog micron gauges back in the 50s and 60s, and my father was taught by 3 other gentlemen of using the micron gauges. They were in their 40s and 50s when they taught my dad in his 20s back in the 50s and 60s how to do this. So this is not new technology. This is old, and it has always been used. You ever heard the term birds of a feather flock together? Well, if a whole bunch of uneducated, untrained, no formal education hang together, and they go word from, mouth to ear, whispering the secret along, the information gets messed up as it goes down the line of people. That's what that's a good description of the automotive industry. It's basically nobody's trained, everybody goes off hearsay, they make up elaborate stories, and they always want the cheapest, easiest, fastest way. And we have too many salesmen in our industry, and too many managers, too many supervisors, too many bosses who can't, educate themselves and diagnose themselves out of a wet paper bag. And that's why the automotive industry is considered the black sheep of the family. Nobody wants to do business with them and, put good equipment or advertise to them, because they're too cheap. They usually want cheap, fast, and easy with no education involved. And wait until all these electric vehicles come out, will have all the heat pumps on them. You're going to be in a world of hurt. See you guys. Or if that customer comes to my shop to me and I get a hold of it, I test it, I tell the customer, hey, it's contaminated with moisture. Hey, they got tested for the oil, it has the wrong oil in the system. Hey, Mr. Customer, look at refrigerant analyzer. Hey, that shop, they put in its mix, it has 6% air mixed in here, or some hydrocarbon mixed in it, or another refrigerant. I report all that to the customer. And if you were the last shop who touched it on the air conditioning, guess what that customer is going to think of you? See you guys later.